This is part one of a four-part series called Star Power, Interstellar Cloud. At the age of 16, one day his father walked in and said, "Get up, let's go." Errol Spence Jr. didn't know what his father had in mind, but he took him to an all-Mexican gym called the Vivero, where he was the only black fighter. They was rough on him in sparring and giving him a hard time, but he made his mark. Then he started working with the illustrious Derrick James.
He has strength, he has power, he has speed.
He's got the possibility of changing boxing.
He had an illustrious amateur career with the record of 135-12. In 2009, at the U.S. National Golden Gloves, he came with a gold record. He won 3 consecutive national amateur welterweight championships. In 2009, he got the gold at Salt Lake City. 2010, Little Rock, he got the silver. 2009 in Denver, the national championship, he got a gold. Colorado Springs, 2010, gold. Colorado Springs, 2011, gold. Also in San Antonio at the USPLE championship, he got a gold medal as well. In 2011, in the quarterfinals, he lost to Serek Sapayev, the two-time golden champion from Kazakhstan. This was his last amateur fight before he went into the Olympic trials in 2012.
A fan of boxing, me and my dad, I grew up watching Lennox Lewis because he's of Jamaican descent and my dad's Jamaican too. So we used to always go and watch him and go support him.
Errol Spence is ready for the Olympics, but the question is, will the Olympics be ready for Errol Spence? We only have to sit back and see.
He's almost like the perfect boxer.
Boxing needs a new face, and I think that Errol Spence is that face.
With his family watching and the state of Texas on his back, Errol puts himself through the grueling training and does what needs to be done.
I'm a very aggressive boxer. If I see have my opponent hurt, I would take risks and go in there and try to get him out of there and knock him out. I'm a person that hate to lose in anything. So that's my motivation right there. I'm a very smart thinker. I think a lot too. I can read my opponent real well. Just all around, just a boxer punching. My dad woke me up one day. He was like, we going to the boxing gym. I didn't like it at first. I used to get beat up a lot. He wouldn't let me quit. He said, if you quit in this, when it gets hard, then you're quitting anything in life. So he made me stick with it, and it turned out to be the best thing I ever done.
With the great Derrick James teaching and his father firmly behind him, Errol Spence set off to make history, set out to bring the gold back to the United States. Early in the morning before dawn, he goes out and runs, and late at night, he's the first one in and the last one to leave. He is fully motivated. That's what keeps him different, and it sets him apart from everybody else. Controversy saw Errol Spence march to the goal, stop short. In a fight that he clearly won, even the ref thought he won and raised his hand up first, he was pronounced lost. The governing bodies went back in and changed the decision, but it was too late. The damage was done, and Spence coincidentally lost the next round. After that, he chose to turn pro and set up his national debut as being the greatest welterweight ever. Spence would then subsequently string together 3 more first-round knockouts: Guillermo Ibarra, Eddie Cordova, and Jesus Tavera. In a step-up fight against Emmanuel Larte, he got a unanimous decision where Spence was hit the hardest of his career, where he was rocked. But it didn't have the effect that Larte wanted. All it did was cut the dynamite on, and then Spence exploded on him. First round knockout of Guardo Cruz, a 4th round knockout at Peter Aluch at the Cowboy Dance Hall. Then had 2 fights at the Joint Paradise Casino, 1st round knockout of Raymond Charles, and a 2nd round knockout of Noe Bolanos. A 10 round unanimous decision against Ronald Cruz, and then he subsequently made his debut at the NGM Grand Garden Casino against Francisco Castro, who he then knocked out in the 5th round. Next, he made his Barclays debut, where he knocked out Samuel Vargas in the 4th round. back to the MGM Grand, Phil LaGreco in the 3rd round. People want to see how good Spence really is. They keep calling for the big names, and Spence is on a hunt for the title shot, but the title bearers are not trying to see him. So he has a step-up fight at the Ricoh Coliseum in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, against Chris Van Heerden. A beautiful fight in which he hurt Van Heerden numerous of occasions. The South African fighter tried to make it a dirty fight, plenty of mugging in the Coliseum in Toronto. He then drops his hands and rolls his shoulders like he was doing the Harlem Shake when Spence pounded him to the body. Instead of clowning around, he looked more like a piñata when he was getting pounded out into the 8th round. Stoppage, which saved Van Heerden from taking more punishment because it was a lose-lose situation. Then Spence was too powerful. Next, they chose to put Spence in there with former welterweight world champion Chris Algieri at the Barclays Center. Errol Spence was 20-0 with 17 knockouts and did what Manny Pacquiao and Rosalind Provetnikov could not. Spence stopped Chris Algieri's 21-3 with a punishing and professional demolition job to earn a 5th round TKO victory. Spence floored Algieri 3 times in the fight, and the boxing world exploded with praise for the former Olympian with his fight. It now seems that Spence is now at the top of the steps, and he's looking to make the name for himself. Now, he's searching for the champions, looking for his mark on greatness. His greatness was being noticed. The great Floyd Mayweather took an interest in Spence and used him to prepare for an upcoming title match. He was able to see the young champion's true potential and marked on his journey together.
You know, at first I came in, kind of caught me off guard. I said, okay, I see.
When I got in the ring with Floyd and I was going tick for tack with him, and you know, we was going 8, 10 rounds, and I just knew, I was like, man, if I can do this with Floyd, I can do this with anybody.
Want to step up and fight him for one of my belts? They can do that. If not, he's going to fight another opponent. But I'm going to make sure he's going to fight for that title.
If Floyd destroyed guys in sparring and destroyed ex-world champions in sparring, and I'm doing this great with him, my ceiling is high. I can be just as great as Floyd Mayweather.
Part 2 of the Errol Spence series, Star Power, is Red Giant, the second stage of a star when it becomes luminous and brightest and it starts to shine. August 16th, 2016 at the Barclays Center, seen a 20-0 Errol Spence versus a 33-1-2 Leonard Bundy in an IBF Eliminator. On May 16th, Errol was scheduled to go against Konstantin Pronovic, but he pulled out with an injured hand. So that left Spence against the wily veteran Leonard Bundy. Spence struggled early with Bundy's switch hit and come forward style, but he stayed with the jab to set up thundering lefts and rights to the body. He had Bundy pinned against the rope. Middle of the 6th round, Spence hit him with a jaw-shattering short left uppercut that knocked Bundy down. Referee Johnny Callis erroneously calls the shot a slip. Bundy was clearly hurt, and without a chance to shake the cobwebs out, Spence immediately attacked, sending the 41-year-old opponent to the ground, to the upper room with a lights-out right hook. Laying on his back, hanging beneath the bottom of the ropes, in a KO. Spence did what Thurman could not, and stopped Bundy in half the time. This was his 8th consecutive stoppage. Now he becomes the immediate mandatory challenger for Kell Brooks, also effectively ending Leonard Bundy's career at the time.
The unified welterweight champion now, and the most wanted man, it seems, in the welterweight division. It's a great feeling. At the end of the day, it didn't come overnight. We really had to work for this position. So me and my team were truly proud. And boxing is my life. It's what I dedicated ever since I was a kid growing up, 7 years old. I'm 28 now, so it's 21 years in the game, man. This is my life. I'm living a dream right now, being the unified champion of the world. And it feels good to be Keith one-time Thurman.
Listen, I know you got mandatories. The winner of this main event becomes your WBC mandatory for that belt that you have.
Yes, sir.
You have a WBA mandatory. Let's put all that aside. If Keith Thurman has his druthers and he's saying he can pick his next opponent, who you fighting?
Just being the kind of fighter I am, I always see 2 things that really matter. One, is fighting legends. That would bring up names like Floyd Mayweather, who he's only talking to McGregor about fighting, so let's not talk about him too much. But Manny Pacquiao's still active. A lot of people think that he should leave the game, but I think if he wants to leave the game, he should go out with a bang, and he should let a young buck who really wants to be the best fighter in the world, he should go toe-to-toe with. Outside of that, we still have more world champions in the welterweight division, one being Kell Brook overseas. Your boy Errol right here sitting next to me, he's going to try to bring that belt back to the United States, and then maybe we can have another unification bout right here, who knows, maybe in New York, maybe in a bigger venue. But I mean, when it comes to the welterweight division, there's a lot of great fights, and your boy Keith One Time Thurman is trying to make those great fights happen for you.
Title. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You know, I weren't chucking the right answer because chocolate brownies, right? I don't want it to be damaged. I want to give it to Errol Spence, clean cut, just been baked. I want it just to be baked. That's why I didn't let that right hand go. I want it to be crisp, so he tastes every bit of that sugar.
What Brooks didn't count on is that the 21-0 Errol Spence would eat the chocolate brownie and ask for seconds. Errol Spence scored an 11th round knockout over Kell Brook to claim the IBF welterweight title at Bramall Lane Soccer Stadium. The official time was 1:47, and Spence was ahead on all three scorecards, 96-93, 97-92, and 95-94. He dropped the Englishman in the 10th round with a flurry and continued to work on that left eye until the stoppage in the 11th round. Kell Brook suffered a broken orbital like he did when he fought Triple G Gennady Golovkin, who broke his right orbital in that fight. I proved tonight I had chin and I have true grit, said Spence in the post-fight interview. He came over to America to take the title from Sean, and I came to the UK to take the title back to America. 35-3-1, Lamont Peterson vacates his regular WBA title that he earned by beating David Avanesium to fight for Spence in his IBF title. Errol the True Spence defended his 147-pound title for the first time as he stopped former two-division world champion by an 8th round TKO. He outboxed a tough Peterson from start to finishing, showcasing a wide skills of speed and power. The fight was stopped prior to the start of the 8th round after Peterson's trainer Barry Hunter called for the stoppage. The fight played out similar to how both fighters predicted, started in a cagey tactical affair before it turned aggressive fight in the middle rounds. 2 minutes into round 5, Spence used a blistering left hook to send Peterson to the canvas. The Washington, D.C. native returns to his feet and continued the battle, but Spence proved to be too much. The 2012 U.S. Olympian outlanded Peterson 161 to just 45, while connecting on 49% of his power punches, just 31% for Peterson. Peterson fought valiantly against the younger, respected the decision of his trainer to stop the fight. If he asked me to fight 1 million people, I will. If he asked me to stop, I will stop. I never questioned his decision. I know he has my best interest at heart, says Peterson of Barry Hunter.
Congratulations. Thank you. You were in against a really tough and courageous man this evening in Lamont. This was some kind of a performance by him, even though you were thoroughly dominant.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Lamont Peterson, man. You know, a lot of guys, they turned down the fight, and he took it like a real warrior, like a real fighter. Lamont, a tough fighter. You know, he don't give it all he got. You know, he's willing to die and everything. You can see his coach had to stop the fight because he wanted to keep going. You know, that's who Lamont is.
Now, Keith Thurman will get back in the ring. I'm sure he'll have some type of a tune-up fight. Coming off the elbow surgery, Danny Garcia's going to fight. Coming up on Showtime, perhaps Horn. What would you like to do with your next fight?
Everybody know I'm waiting on sometime Thurman. You know, I've been waiting for a long time. Since I was 15-0, I've been calling this guy out, and he keep making excuse after excuse. He didn't hurry up and come back, you know, fight a little tune-up fight, and then let's fight. I'm waiting on him to get on.
Talks of an up-and-coming mega fight between 23-0 unbeaten Spence and 22-0 Carlos Ocampo. Frisco, Texas, Errol Spence defended his IBF welterweight championship with a first-round knockout of undefeated mandatory challenger Carlos Ocampo in a homecoming fight on Showtime at the Ford Center Star. The sellout crowd of more than 12,600 fans packed the Ford Center at the Star to witness Spence's first homecoming defense as champion for his fight in Dallas since 2015. Pounding the body from the opening bell with his trademark body attack and superb ring generalship, Spence, who was making the second defense of his 147-pound title, floored Ocampo with a beautiful 1-2 shot combo. Second punch landed flush on the challenger's side, instantly flooring him as the opening round concluded. Ocampo, who was 22-0 with 13 knockouts, crippled over in pain while on the canvas, was unable to beat the count and remained on the floor for more than 2 minutes while Spence celebrated his victory. Spence later told reporters that he was a little disappointed. He wanted to give the crowd their money's worth. He wanted him to sustain a bit and give him some punishment, but the body shot got him and I dropped him. That was the 9th time that Spence, 24-0 with 21 knockouts now, has floored an opponent with a body shot in his 24 fights. If I hit him again, he would probably drop, said Spence. That was my game plan. I'm the body snatcher. And yes, Errol Spence is the body snatcher. Before a star burns out, it burns its brightest. Before it turns into a black hole and all the energy is gone, it is a supernova. We all have heroes, and every man's biggest dream is to show his heroes that he's on the level. And everybody's worst nightmare is for your hero to look past you and think that you're not on the level.
Okay, I gotta see this. Mikey,
I'll be disappointed if it does not.
Mikey Spence coming up in 2 weeks.
Mikey.
Why?
You know what? Because he's Mikey. You know? That's simple. It speaks for itself.
See, the thing is that Spence don't move his head. Spence's head is always there. It's always there to be hit. You know, Mikey's a really good counterpuncher. You know what I mean? Spencer throw, and then he's right there. He stays there. You know what I mean? He like that. He'll catch a couple, but he's right there to be hit right down the middle.
With everybody thinking Spence is just some come-forward bull Mexican-style fighter, Errol sought to prove the haters and the naysayers wrong, to show that he is more than just a bulldozer, to show that he has finesse, craft, and technique, and that he could go toe-to-toe with the best there is out there and beat the best at their own game. Errol Spence made the battle against pound-for-pound great Mikey Garcia look all too easy for his IBS welterweight belt. Errol Spence 25-0 with 21 knockouts, going against a 39-0 with 30 knockout Mikey Garcia at AT&T Arlington Stadium in Texas. With everybody choosing Mikey Garcia to beat Errol Spence because of his boxing ability, Errol Spence basically shut him out for 12 rounds. He showed off his brilliance. His jab was powerful. He mixed up the shots to the head and the body. He used quick, smart footwork to keep Garcia off balance for the entire night. After the bout, Spence brought Manny Pacquiao in the ring and said it would be an honor to fight him next for the pay-per-view broadcast. Pacquiao was diplomatic in response, but he seen that the fight could maybe happen. It was a humbling night for Garcia, who said, "I see something." The first loss of his career, he made a bold decision to come up one weight class from the 140 to 147 for Spence's IBF title. He got a lot of praise but heavy skepticism, and he dared to be great, which a lot of people said, and he got credit for it, but he dared to be great against the wrong one. Spence, who was overweight in camp, had to have a fat camp, and he didn't get to get strength and conditioning, which saw the fight go the distance, and he didn't stop the smaller Mikey Garcia. But the numbers confirmed that everybody saw in the ring that Spence totally dominated. He landed 345 punches to Garcia's 75. And it took Spence a few rounds to amp it up, but he got on cruise control once he did. And a lot of other fighters that were scared to fight Spence seen that if a smaller fighter like Garcia can make it, then maybe I could. And Spence was starting to enjoy the fruits of his labors. The fast tenacity that he put in, the hard work and the training, he's starting to lack in. He's not coming as much. Just like Spence said, 50% of me is better than any of these fighters out here. And he developed a great relationship with Jerry Jones and started to get on the Superman fast track. He didn't want to be like fighters of old that enjoyed after it was over. He wanted his roses now. And Spence, as a young individual, started to enjoy his time in the shine, in the sun. After being shunned from other fighters and people didn't want to fight him, now he says a catch slogan, times have changed now. Now I'm the big fish, they gotta come for me. And with record-breaking sales with Mikey Garcia's fight and Errol Spence battering it around, becoming a specialist in people's eyes, only thing next is to put together a fight with Showtime Shawn Porter. This would be Errol's toughest fight because this fight seen Shawn Porter in training camp for almost 6 months, while Errol Spence, enjoying his partying, had to go through another fat camp. Errol had to drop almost 40 pounds while Shawn Porter was in the best shape of his life. And this fight was much more than just 2 belts on the line. This was Shawn Porter getting his dad's approval from all the years when he chose Errol. But this fight will go down as one of the best fights of the year and one of the best fights of both guys' careers. Being the man that Spence is, he takes his opponent's strengths and take it away from him. They say he couldn't box Mikey. He boxed Mikey. They say he can't go in the hole in the pocket with Shawn Porter. So he decided to do just that and take this fight into the down dirty, into the dungeon, into the hole. Spence threw 745 punches to Porter's 744. That shows how even the fight was, but Spence landed 221 of those punches, which was 49 more than Porter. He also landed 44% of his power punches to just 25.7 for Shawn Porter, whose inaccuracy has been a problem in an otherwise stellar career. Porter was throwing a lot, but he also was making it a rough house. And in the 11th round, Spence slipped a counter and threw a left, which was the straw that broke the camel's hump, or the camel's back. Porter's body went down from sheer exhaustion and all the accumulated power that he has been taking. And yes, he got back up, but the damage had been done. The mark has been done. Inside, he know he lost that fight. Spence went in there and beat that man at his own volition. Beat him at his own game. Spence is the man. He has 2 belts now and going for more. And now, with Keith Thurman ducking him, he only got one way but up, and he's enjoying the ride. Now the fight that everybody wants to see is Errol versus Crawford. And it's going to be a fight for the decades like Hagler-Hearns or Leonard and Hearns. We need to see that fight. But some people are talking about size of the street.
That guy. Everyone know I'm that guy.
You're not that guy.
I'm that guy.
Numbers don't lie, and I'm the number
I'm that
one
guy. You're not the number one guy.
Numbers don't lie.
You signed for 3.5 fight.
Everybody got ESPN.
Terry, who's the better basketball player?
Me. Anything about him is me. Me. You can ask Bron who the best basketball player.
And I killed him for the bread.
You can ask Bron who the best basketball player. You can ask Bron who the best.
Hey.
I asked all the money.
And I killed him for the bread. Easy work. He didn't want to play me one-on-one.
I killed him too.
He didn't want to play me one-on-one.
I play you one-on-one.
That's what we were supposed to be in there after our fights.
But where you go kind of
The statistics, they coming to us.
They try to find something on me.
They coming to us. We ain't going to them. They coming to us.
They try to find something. They can't find nothing. I like him though. Now
Errol Spence living the dream, flying high, hanging with rappers, just enjoying life, drinking, partying, smoking, doing everything that he wants to do, enjoying his star-studdedness. Errol shot for the moon, so he's up there with the stars now. And he's enjoying every minute of it. But what goes up must come down. If you're not living it right and treating it right, then it can all turn in a blink of an eye, in a flash. October the 10th, 2019, unified welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. was thrown from a Ferrari during an early morning crash outside a Dallas sports bar. They try to say he was been drinking, but rumor has it that it had been involved in some street life, some stuff that Errol Spence, a man of his position, had no reason being involved in, and he had to face the consequences. He could have died that night. Now, getting ejected from the Ferrari, nobody knows, will he ever get to walk again, talk again? Will he live? How would his career be after this? Is it all over for such a bright star with such a great future who Floyd Mayweather once said, I put my belts up against anybody for this kid right here? We never know. We just got to see what happens and what's in store for Errol the Truth Spence Jr. A lesser man wouldn't have made it. When you're God's chosen, God's anointed, only God can stop you. To come out of the ashes stronger, smarter, wiser, and more focused. A phoenix. Now you realize you were put here for greatness and nothing can stop you. Now you have your purpose, your reason for being here. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have this wish I wish tonight. Greatness. The North Star may light the way, but the Sirius is the brightest of them all, the one that outshines all them. The only one that can stop Spence is Spence himself. Now, more than a year later after the car crash, Errol Spence will be defending his WBC and IBF welterweight belt against Danny Garcia at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, his first fight since the accident. Most fighters on a comeback fight will take a soft touch, but not Spence. Spence has to test his greatness, and if he can't go in there and battle Garcia, then he knows that he's just not going to be a boxer anymore. So this fight means more than just the belts.
For a long time, and to be fighting again in my hometown means the world to me, especially as a comeback fight. And just having my core fans and people that supported me since day one be there at the fight, man, it means everything, and I won't let this moment go to waste.
For Danny, you are coming here to the Dallas area. You're from Philadelphia. It's well documented in football, the rivalry between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Do you relish the opportunity to potentially win these world titles in quote-unquote enemy territory?
You know, first of all, before I answer your question, I want to thank God for putting me on this stage and having a healthy camp and making it here to Texas, blessed with a great team and a great family. I want to thank Al Heyman, I want to thank Fox, I want to thank the media, everyone who helped make this big event.
With his third title defense at the AT&T Stadium of 16,000, which was considered a sellout in the pandemic, the fight wasn't even close. Spence made the Garcia look like an amateur when he dipped in and out, throwing fast flurries of shots and not getting hit. At one time, Danny Garcia just put his hands in his pocket as Spence continued to hit him with barrage of shots after barrage. In the 8th, it looked like Spence could have stopped Garcia, but the nutrition and being away from the ring had Errol's stamina not up to par, so he took his foot off of gas, and Danny Garcia lived to tell another day. But his body a considerable amount of punishment, and Garcia wouldn't get back into the rings for over 3 years after this fight. And now Errol's ready. He invites Manny Pacquiao into the ring and then talks to him about a scheduled super fight. Alas, with a renewed sense of purpose, thinking that the bad is behind, alas, the cars did not line up right for Errol the True Spence. the mega fight. The fight that would have made him a household name, that would launch his career already great into superstardom, was denied Spence. He had a chance to fight the legendary Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao and send him off into a glorious sunset on his ever-aging career after Pacquiao has just destroyed Keith Thurman. But we would not get to see that fight because a retina tear going into the final physical before the fight had Errol unable to continue to fight. The doctor wouldn't clear him for the fight. Errol, being the warrior that he was, said, "Hey, I still have my left eye," but alas, it was not to be. So Errol went back to the training board, got a surgery, and prepared for what was to come. And when Errol went back to the training board, Yordenis Ugas, the Cuban, had the opportunity of a lifetime thrust into his lap. See, it was already a problem with the WBA because they made Manny Pacquiao the champion in recess because he was going through political aspirations, and Yordenis Ugas was moved to the super champ. Everybody didn't like the fact that they dropped Manny to the champion in recess, so what better way to decide the WBA super champion than to have the champion in recess and the new super champion fight it out to be the champion. One thing for sure, two things for certain. The fight definitely didn't go the way the 8th Division World Champion Manny Pacquiao thought. He was outclassed at every round by Yordenis Ugas, beaten to a pulp, ended Manny Pacquiao's career. Now Yordenis Ugas is the household star who took the torch from the Manny Pacquiao, which had Errol Spence watching, aggravated, training. Now Errol knows he has to train that much more better so he can get what was rightfully his, the passing of the torch. Unlike in previous fights in previous years, this is the best Errol has been since the Ocampo fight. Even though he missed Manny Pacquiao fight, he kept his same fight weight. He stayed into training harder and harder, and he was finally able to get strict conditioning. He hadn't had that since the Ocampo fight. So it was going to be punishment when him and Ugas finally fought. And then the day came for him and Ugas to fight. It was a brilliant showing. Errol made a rookie mistake in the 6th round and had his mouthpiece knocked out. Errol, who was not protecting himself at all times, took 2 solid shots without his mouthpiece, which stumbled him into the ropes. The ref stopped the fight, got the mouthpiece back in, and Errol brought the dog out. If Ugas thought it was bad before, now he was getting hit with punishing, crippling shots in the 6th round to finish it off. Then in the 7th round, we see them going body to body. Errol came out with a crushing onslaught that made the wily Cuban put his hands in his pocket. A vicious uppercut in the 7th round cracked Yordenis Ugas over the bone to his eye. After that, you can hear the Cuban scream in pain as Errol continued to bombard the eye, the ribs, which was also broken as well. Ugas was a warrior because no matter what type of pain and stress that he went through, he continued to go out there. He was ready to die on his shield because he has finally made it to the top of the mountain. Finally a champion, the man that escaped from Cuba 7 times, which was a treacherous journey which people died on the boat which he was on, was at the top and he was not going to go down for nobody. But Spence is not just a nobody, he's the chosen. And not only will he beat you, he will break you. And that's what he did. He broke Ugas. He almost broke the Cuban's will, but the body went out before his will went. But you have to give it to Ugas. He was game, taking crushing shots over and over and over. See, we've seen Errol this strong, but we didn't see him this focused. This is the Kell Brook L with the Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia footwork and head movement and the ring IQ. Errol Spence is a complete package now because he can fight any style, inside like Sean Porter, outside on the back foot like the Mikey Garcia or the Danny Garcia fight, in and out like the Lamont Peterson fight, Errol is a complete package, a complete monster with a defensive prowess. Errol is one of the least hit welterweights. His punch-to-hit ratio is the best there is. He is a complete fighter who doesn't get credit for the way he moves, the way he cuts off the ring, the way he can fight on the back foot, fight on the front foot. He can fight coming forward. He can fight going to the side. He can fight laterally. He can fight any way that you want to fight. And he has bone-crushing power. Just look at the eyes of Ugas, Garcia, Kell Brook, Lamont Peterson. Hey, the man is a technical punch placement juggernaut. And if you in the way, he would just roll right over you. He's a force of nature, a force of will, his will, like a tsunami, ready to crash down and destroy everything around him. He has the most devastating style in boxing because he has a high output, a high motor, and he doesn't waste shots or energy. All his shots have purpose. It is to hurt, break, damage, maim, and destroy his opponent. A heavyweight could not stand up there and take his onslaught of punishment. So, for anyone who thinks Errol Spence, it has anybody going to stop them is terribly wrong, because the truth is right in front of you. But y'all people rather take a lie because you can't accept it.